Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Lots of you here today. We're so glad you are. If you're brand new, I know Sarah's already said this, but welcome. Reservers, let's do it. Let's give it up for them. Every week we do that. So grateful. And what you've come in today is we're in the middle of what we as a church are calling the Big Push. And what the Big Push is just all of us together as a church saying, we really care about the community. And our prayer is that through these series, through these events that we're doing, that you might be able to be exposed to our church. And as a result of being exposed to our church, you'll be exposed to what I call the vast love of God for you. And that's really our prayer. And reservers, hopefully you're giving people the invites that we gave you. You're inviting friends and family and neighbors and co-workers, whatever, to church. We're an event that we're doing. Hopefully that has just given you kind of the avenue, the path to do that. And we just want to get to know our community. That's why we're here. So, right? Get it? Good. And one of the things that we are doing, I've already mentioned this, is we're doing a couple of series that might be real practical, and I call them gritty series that will help us, equip us in everyday life. And one of them is what we're in right now, marriage. And we've spent, this will be the third week in talking about marriage. In a couple weeks, I'm going to start a series called Raising Giants, and it's a parenting series. And we'll see if I still have a job when that is done. But we will do our best to communicate some principles that might help us from the Bible, not from Jason, but from the Bible. But this marriage series, I'm hearing some pretty good things. I'm hearing, I got a text this week that some people laminated some notes and put them on the refrigerator. That's kind of cool. And others have said some other different things that have been very encouraging. So Built to Last is the series that we're in, what strong relationships are made of. Next week, I'm going to talk to singles. If you're single, if you have single friends, bring them adult children, teenagers, whatever, and we'll talk about just both how to prepare, how to get your mind and heart right, all those kinds of things. But this week, we're going to do something a little bit different. I want to start with just a couple of questions here today that maybe you might have answers for. Don't yell them out. That would be embarrassing for you and me. But you might have answers for these. But just some questions that kind of get our minds thinking. Why do some relationships flourish while others just fade? Like, you ever ask questions like that? You look at couples, you're like, man, they've got it together, so it appears, and then over there, they started out great, and now they're like, just not, right? It just kind of faded. How about another question? Why do some relationships last and others slowly dry out? Why is that? I've said this over the series. I'll say it again. No one stood at the altar when you got married and said, you know what? I'm kind of hoping we dry out. I'm kind of planning on us divorcing. Like, nobody said that, right? So why is it true that it happens? Because it certainly does. Why do some peoples get more couples get more connected, more patient, more united with time? Why is that? While others get more irritated, more distant, and more exhausted. Why is that true? Like, what is kind of the idea or principles behind that? And you kind of come up with this idea of the people that aren't drying out, aren't fading out, aren't disconnected, but are completely connected. You say things like, if you're on the other end of it, are these people just charmed? Is the relationship just charmed? And here's what I would tell you after decades of pastoral counseling and marriages, watching them, studying them, and then being married myself for 33 years. This is what I have learned. Great marriages are not charmed. They're cultivated. They are not charmed. Nobody starts out better than anybody else necessarily. We talked in week 1 about storylines that you bring into marriages and things like that. But they're not charmed. They're just not. We're people. The number of times that we mess up every day, try to keep a tally of mine and I run out of space, right, to keep that tally. And it's not because we're charmed. It's because they're cultivated. Marriages are grown. Marriages are developed. Marriages are practiced. Marriages are tended, right? If we're not doing that, we're going to be one of the statistics of falling away, right? And just like a garden, I'll refer to a garden a couple times today, but this is the first. Just like a garden, you do not reap what you wish. You reap what you water. So you can wish all kinds of things, right? You're hoping it grows and it's flourishing and there's fruit and everything else. But if you don't water it, it's not going to happen, right? And you know that. It's a simple principle. And so they're cultivated. That's, what's the real reason people flourish, right? And so I will tell you, portable, repeatable phrase, you reap in marriage what you repeat daily. You will reap in your marriage and all relationships what you repeat daily. That's just true. And so today, like others, but let me just say it again about today. Today is a practical message. Today is a gritty message. You're going to have to decide whether or not you're going to water the garden. You're going to have to decide whether you're going to tend to the marriage, cultivate the marriage. You have to decide it. It is gritty, right? This isn't some kind of make-a-wish kind of idea or idealistic kind of idea, right? You have to decide that, okay? Here's what we've done. In week 1, just so you kind of see the progression, we dealt with the drift. In week 2, we dealt with communication. And so this week, as we look to cultivate our marriage, we're going to deal with habits. And what are those habits? They are the unseen behaviors that either build intimacy or erode it. And you're going to have repeated behaviors in your marriage. And the ones that you decide to repeat the most are how your marriage are going to reap either the benefits or the erosion that come from those habits, right? So we all have them, and we decide where we're going to put those habits and put time in, okay? So I would tell you that if you want a different marriage, I will not ask for a show of hands. And by the way, when I say different marriage, I'm not talking about different person. If I said, hey, who wants a different person? Depends what day it is, right? I'm not asking that, right? But what I am saying is if you want a different marriage, if you want that, or you want a good marriage, you don't need different emotions. You need different habits. And it's a decision, okay? So let's jump into that. Okay, you ready? Ready? You're ready. Okay, point number 1 is I would tell you that you reap what you rehearse. You reap what you rehearse. Where do we see this? Well, it's over in the book of Galatians. I had a prof when I was in my Bible training seminary that called it the book of Galatians. I don't know why he called it that, but he did. I've never forgotten it. But it's Galatians chapter 5, verses 22 through 23. You'll remember probably the longest series we ever did in this church through the fruits of the Spirit. And that's what we're going to cover here today. Verses 22 and 23 say this. The Apostle Paul is the writer, and he says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, which we can translate patience, okay, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, and against such things there is no law. You can just leave it up there for me if you would, Brian. Love, this fruit of the Spirit. No, I want you to notice that. Fruit of the what? Fruit of the self? No. Fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Now, here's what people often, when we look at this passage, we misunderstand. We misunderstand the fact that these fruits of the Spirit are not traits. They're not personalities, okay? They're not temperaments Now, you can be naturally gifted to be a patient person. You can naturally be more patient than someone else, or half glass empty or full, right? That kind of perspective that would be maybe joy, or right, or whatever. Like, you can kind of have a disposition, but these are not traits and these are not temperaments. Okay, they are what I call, and you can use this if you want, practiced graces. The fruits of the Spirit are practiced graces given by Him. They grow with repetition. They strengthen with usage. Right? They are practiced graces. No one just wakes up patient. You just don't. Right? You're like, well, I don't know about that. Well, listen, just go wake up a 2-year-old. Just wake up a 2-year-old and wait till they're hungry. And by the way, all we are that temperament of wanting more for myself deep in our souls, but we've matured, right? But you add about 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 years to those 2 years, and you've just kind of learned how to control it. But it's just in your own humanity. You don't wake up patient. You wake up saying, I want this done and I want it this way. Okay? But we've learned to kind of control that, right? And so we don't understand, we don't wake up patient. Nobody accidentally becomes gentle, right? It is rehearsed, it is practiced, it is cultivated. There are habits. Now, here's what we need to understand, though, that when we think about the fruits of the Spirit, what we have to understand is, and it's a portable, repeatable for you, is that the fruit of the Spirit is not something you manufacture. That would be super discouraging because I fail at it so many times. It's not what you manufacture, it's something you cultivate. And the fruit of the Spirit is what produces these things in you. And we'll talk more about that even as we go through this point, okay? So how does this happen as we seek to follow God? I want you to notice what Paul does not say in that passage if you have it open. Okay? He does not say the fruit of human effort. He does not say the fruit of strong willpower. Doesn't say that. And he doesn't say the fruit of try harder. He says the fruit of the Spirit. And so what Paul is teaching here, which is in direct correlation of the fruits of the flesh, okay, meaning those before Christ, not controlled by the Spirit, okay, but he is saying this: transformation begins with God's presence, not your performance. It is the fruit of the Spirit alive in you. And if you are new to church, what I want and hope that you would begin to see and understand is that God loves you so much that he's willing through faith to give you his Spirit, and he loves you so much that he wants to begin to produce in you these things that all of us desire to have. That's what I want you to maybe consider today as you listen to me, which doesn't mean a whole lot. But the fruit of the Spirit, the gift he gives to you, it's life-changing. And everybody around you believes that. And we're seeking together to live that out. It's the fruit of the Spirit. Transformation begins with God's presence, not our performance. I am so grateful for that. So grateful. But now, listen. It also does not mean that you are passive. So you're just kind of walking around, it's just fruit of the Spirit, he'll develop it in me, so right now I'm going to blow you up. But don't worry, the fruit of the Spirit's going to be real someday, he's just going to give it to me. Right? That's not how it works, right? It's the fruit of the Spirit, but what we need to understand is this is the tension in the Christian life. You don't produce the fruit, but you do plant, water, and tend the soil. Okay? So you're not responsible for producing that. What you're responsible is, or for, is your posture. You do, I do plant, I do water, and I do tend the soil of my relationship. And so do you. It's a great tension. It's a great, when you're trying to understand what it means to know God and walk with God. It's, people talk in our culture about being good people. And what we understand is we're not really without God. There's a problem that the Bible calls sin, and we're just separated from God, and we move toward that naturally. Okay? And the tension in the Christian life is understanding that the works that we produce are works in response to what He's done for us. They are not works to make us okay with God. It's a great tension. And I believe it's why Jesus said over in John 15, verse 4, I think it's up here, this is Jesus speaking. He said, "Remain in me as I also remain in you." Right? So what is it? God says He'll remain in you, but what's our posture? Our posture is to also remain in Him. So we water, we feed the garden, right? We tend it, okay? Remain in me. No branch can bear fruit by itself. Just think about the fruits of the Spirit. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit neither you can bear fruit unless you remain in me. So this idea that Jesus is speaking, long before Paul writes it, Jesus says, remain in me. The Spirit supplies the power, we supply the posture. That's how it works. Okay? So when you choose to forgive instead of explode, when you slow down instead of react, when you tell the truth instead of hide and lie, when you pray instead of panic, you're not earning transformation. You're positioning yourself for the Spirit to form Christ in you. Okay? Christ is the one that gives you those things. I love this. A theologian that I deeply respect, it has influenced me over the years through all of my reading, Dallas Willard, he said, grace is not opposed to effort. It is opposed to earning. Right? It's not opposed to effort, the posture, but it is opposed to earning. There is effort, but it's effort fueled by dependence, not pressure. I just want us to get this today. It's so important. Right? So what this does for Jason, and hopefully for you, is that it helps me in my marriage. It would help me in my future marriage if you're thinking about getting married, desiring to be married, engaged, or whatever. This helps me. As I posture myself under the teaching of the truth of God's Word, the Spirit promises to produce in my life the fruits of the Spirit that will directly affect my marriage. It energizes me. So grace doesn't eliminate effort. Grace energizes effort. A few years ago now, when Lawrence came to me to ask for my daughter's hand in marriage at a Texas Roadhouse in Warsaw, Indiana, we sat there and he told me how he felt about our daughter, and said that he wanted to marry her. And I said, sorry, bud, you're out of luck. No, I didn't say that. We were, of course, excited about it. Very excited, very grateful. But in that lunch that we had together, it turned into somewhat of a teaching moment. And if you know Jason is always kind of sharing stuff. And whether I'm right or wrong, that's probably a weakness of mine, but I share stuff. What I think. And I told him, I said, listen, I said, if you want to love my daughter, our daughter, well, I'm going to tell you to remember three things. I'm going to tell you to promote her, protect her, and always be on her side. Those are the things that you need to do. And those things actually ended up in his vows to Emmy. And then it led me to telling him to live what I call the 98% submission rule. And that rule, this Jason's rule, I don't know if it's right or not, it's just what Jason thinks, is that 90% of the time, it is our pleasure to serve our spouse in every way. So the things that they desire, the things that they want, the places they want to go, the places they want to eat, the things they want to do at the house, whatever your context of life is, it's our privilege as a spouse to submit to that. And of course, there's the other 2% where we really say, no, I don't think we should, and both spouses say that. But if we both have that, and Emily had that for him, okay, and he for her, if you both have that, think of the joy and the fellowship that will happen. But see, that's effort, isn't it? It's a posture. It's a posture of submitting to one another. It's a fruit of the Spirit that says that I choose to put them first. I choose to act in patience. I choose to act in joy around it. I choose to ask the Lord to develop those things in me and around them. And so grace that I've experienced energizes my effort to serve my spouse. See it? You get it? Right? So let me ask you just a quick heart check. When you look at those fruits of the Spirit in your marriage, what is the percentage rule that you're living by? Which of the fruits is hardest for you right now? Patience, gentleness, kindness, self-control, peacefulness, faithfulness? Which one? I would encourage you to identify one and then ask God to develop in you this attribute with your spouse to begin to submit to them in this way and in your life. And then every day ask God and His help to be patient. Ask Him to help you practice it. Posture yourself before the Lord. When your feet hit the floor in the morning, to say, God, I don't know what this day holds, but I know that I'm going to interact with my wife or my husband, maybe my children, whatever, my relationships, even my workplace, okay? When your feet hit the floor, Lord, help me to be more patient today. Help me to be more engaging today. Help me to be more submissive today. Not weak, but a posture to tend and to work. And when you fail, what do? We seek forgiveness, and we go right back at it tomorrow. And Jesus said that when we remain in Him that way, that He will be faithful to remain in us. And Paul said that the promise of the Spirit is to produce in you these fruits that you're longing to have. Right? It's a posture. It energizes us because we know that the promise is for us to have them. I heard long ago that the fruits of the Spirit are not an immediate reality, but they're a destination for all who remain in Christ. I think that's right. Think how different our marriages would be if we would have that kind of posture. Okay? So what you rehearse is what you reap. That's point one. Get it? Good. Okay. So why do marriages drift? I think we just we stop growing. Point two. All right, you ready? Point two. Intimacy grows in the daily, not the dramatic. This is the gritty part I'm talking about. It grows in the daily, not the dramatic. Okay, intimacy does. Let's go over to Colossians. Paul is the writer there as well. And he says some pretty credible things in verses 12 through 15. He says, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved. Clothe yourselves, and here's the things, right? Like, put these things on. When my feet hit the floor, right? Posture before the Lord. Clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Okay? Bear with each other. Yeah. So we don't blow up and, right, hurt and lose self-control, but we bear with each other and we forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. Now there's a statement. You really want to understand what true forgiveness is, just do a little bit of a deep dive in what it meant for Christ to die for us and forgive us. I won't go deeply into that today. Just think, consider, and then bring it back to yourself. Verse 14. And over all these virtues, put on love. So you put all of these things on. Think of getting dressed. You put them on. It's a posture, right? And then you literally coat it, right? Maybe it's your coat. Maybe it's your whatever. You coat it with love. You put it on, which binds them all together in perfect unity. And then verse 15. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. Think, consider that. Since as members of one body, you were called to peace. Oh, and by the way, be thankful. When was the last time? I'm going to just ask you this real quick. It's not in my notes. This is free. You don't have to pay for it. When was the last time you simply were thankful for her? That you were thankful for him. Think about it. Think about the posture that you would have if you just were thankful. Right? Just thankful. Okay? I've often said in marriage counseling and then also in marriage ceremonies, I've said, I think all couples need to remember the 80% rule in marriage. When you were dating, the only thing that you saw in the person that you're now married to back when you were dating is the 80%. They dressed great. They smelled great. Right? They put on their best attitude. They couldn't wait to impress you, and you couldn't wait to impress them. I mean, you saw the 80%, and guess what? You fell in love with the 80%. Then you got married. And it's not that the 80% isn't there, but the 20%. The ugly part begins to woo. And here's what, right? And by the way, it's just us. It's just us being sinful people. It's just what it is. Don't beat yourself up about it. It's just what it is. Here's what people have done, though, in marriages. Marriages over time, and it's one of the reasons they drift, they started focusing on the 20% that is ugly to the neglect of the 80%, which is absolutely beautiful. And you're not thankful for the 80%, you're angry about the 20%. And so Paul just kind of threw that in. Oh, yeah, and by the way, be thankful. What do you focus on? Now listen, none of these things that Paul talked about here in Colossians 12, compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience, bearing with one another, forgiving one another, all those things, the love that binds it all together, right? None of these are big moments. They can have big moments, but none of them are big moments. None of them are a once-a-year event. Okay? They're daily practices. That's why he said, put it on. Clothe yourselves, right? Intimacy is the accumulation of intentionality in your marriage. So I would tell you healthy marriages aren't built in the highlight reel. They're built in the hidden rhythms in your marriage. It's the kind words, deciding to be kind. It's the small check-ins like we've talked about. It's the consistent respect that each person as a created person of God deserves. The daily meaningful interactions and the I am with you no matter what posture. That's what it is. You see, we often think about intimacy with the idea of fireworks, but intimacy is actually tending the flame. Right? Most marriages are not fireworks, it's actually firewood. You got to keep putting firewood on that flame, right? It's not crazy, blow up, right? One person found that funny. Okay. But it's small pieces, it's daily, it's intentional, it's steady. Because here's a portable, repeatable phrase, small faithfulness builds big love. Love that doesn't drift. Love that doesn't become critical. Love that doesn't focus on the 20%. Small faithfulness. These things that Paul told us to put on. So let me give you 4 daily practices of intimacy, and I'll move through somewhat quickly here just because of time. One would be appreciation. It's just simple, everyday, one specific appreciation that you can give your spouse. Right now, Marcia and I are redoing the floor on our first level of our home. And it's a big project. And there's so many angles and so many different measurements because we're going down a hallway, we're in different areas, we're in the kitchen, we're in all these different places. And Marcy has an incredible gift at puzzles. And she does puzzles on her phone, and I watched her. She laid this whole grid out of what to do. And it was amazing. So I always tell people, she does the math, I do the labor. And she's incredible at that. And I did something right. I don't do things right most often, but I did something right. I celebrated her in front of family this week because of that simple thing. Right? I celebrated her privately in just words of encouragement. Right? It's just appreciation. Do you do that? Seeing what they're great at and bringing it to light. Research says that 5 affirmations to 1 criticism is the ratio that healthy couples have. Think about it. Another one would be affection. And I'm talking about non-sexual touch that communicates safety. This week we learned of some concerning health issues for Marcy's mom, and I asked her what she needed, and she simply said a hug. I didn't say a word, I just hugged her. Affection. The third thing would be shared responsibility. I would tell you nothing kills intimacy like imbalance. Divide responsibilities clearly, work together on those things. Practice what I personally call the practice of one, meaning that, back to Marcy and I, we do a lot of projects in our home, and 98% of those projects, you'll find both of us doing them together. I was driving to church today, and I was thinking about this point and how we do things together, and I was reminded in my spirit that both of us saw this growing up. Both my parents and her parents were people that 98% of the time, they just did things together. And I was impacted by that. And so was Marcy, I believe. Don't underestimate the impact that you have to children or people around you when they see you working together toward a goal. Practice the practice of one. The practice of one. Shared responsibility. And the fourth would be just a prayer of blessing. A simple 20 to 30 second prayer speaks volumes. God, give us grace today. Help us be patient and kind toward one another. They're not dramatic, they're daily. And daily is where connection is built. Go back to the image of the garden. You don't get fruit because you meant to water it. You get fruit because you watered it, right? Now, let me cover some things real quick. And this one, I won't even use illustrations. This is real quick. Some of you need to start the road back, right? And you need the grace for the road back. You need to remember that every relationship goes through winter seasons. They just do. Every marriage has cold weeks, cold months, and sometimes cold years. And life does that to you. Things happen and they take the attention of the spouse, and winter happens. It just happens. Distance happens, misunderstanding happens, pain happens, trauma happens, patterns happen. But here's the comfort. Winter isn't death. Winter is where roots grow. You've got to remember that. If you're in a winter season, hear me clearly. God can resurrect what feels ruined. There is no marriage too cold, too stuck, too hurt, or too exhausted for God to breathe life into it. But restoration, remember, is not in a moment. It's a direction. It's a journey back. It's a series of small, faithful steps. So if you're needing to rebuild trust in your relationships, let me give you 4 things that you need to practice. Number 1, confession without justification. Just confess it and shut up. Okay? I'm sorry, I did that. Right? Second would be forgiveness without scoreboard. Forgiveness is not saying it didn't matter. Forgiveness is releasing them from paying you back. So it's forgiveness without scoreboard. Third would be consistency without drama. If anybody knows Jason does not do drama well at all. And I don't know that you do either, but trust rebuilds through being boring, what I call boring faithfulness, every day, mundane, consistency. Not grand statements, not emotional explosions. I'm moving quickly because I'm out of time. Consistency without drama. And then vulnerability without fear. Bottom line is, I'm going to be vulnerable. You do with it what you want. But I'm not going to play games. I'm not going to manipulate you. I'm not going to give you the cold shoulder. I'm not no, it's vulnerability without fear. Talk honestly, you name hurts, you ask questions, and you re-engage emotionally. You take the risk. Building our own little worlds over here, all it does is erode intimacy. So always remember, grace doesn't remove the work. Grace makes the work possible in our marriages. Okay? So this week, all I want you to do, because this could be overwhelming, all the fruits of the spirits and the things that Paul said in Colossians, pick a habit and practice it this week. Just pick a habit and practice it this week. Start there. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't try to fix everything at once. Just begin. Because healthy marriages aren't built in one big moment. They're built in thousands of small ones. Remember that. Okay? Let me conclude. If you want a different harvest, start planting different seeds. If you want a different atmosphere, start practicing different habits. If you want a different marriage, start cultivating one. You don't need perfection, you need direction and the power of God. And God promises when you plant, He will grow. When you practice, He will bless. What you tend, He will transform. Okay? I've got to quit. Hopefully that helps. It's helped me as I study God's Word and understand that. Jesus, thank you for being so willing to see us where we are, and then be willing through your grace, power, mercy to not leave us there. Lord, some of our marriages are just in trouble. They're in winter seasons, and I pray that they would, even by what you said here today, would encourage them to fight, to re-engage, to pick one habit and just work on it this week. and then add to that same habit and build another one, Lord. And would you slowly but clearly begin to rebuild? There are some on the other end of the spectrum are hoping to be married or planning to be married, Lord. May the things that you've said here today just give them this structure, this framework in building good habits, rhythms that would lead to intimacy, Lord. And Lord, for all of us who just know that we're not perfect, and our marriage isn't in trouble, but it's not maybe as vibrant as it used to be. And Lord, whether we're 1 year in, 5 years in, 20, 30, 40 years in, Lord, all of us still want a vibrancy of a marriage if we're married in relationship. And so, God, help all of us to be reminded and begin to clothe ourselves, like Paul said, and then bind it with love. And Lord, may we turn our hearts and our minds toward our spouse. Lord, thank you. Thank you that the fruit of the Spirit is not something that we develop, it's something that you grant us. And thank you for the gift of being able to provide a posture where you can work. We love you. We thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.